actually helped launch a multi-market campaign that achieved a reach in excess of 30 million individuals. Peter, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for a great introduction. My name is Peter van Reekom, and I am a corporate sales manager within Quantcast. I am Dutch, so I might sound a little bit Irish because I do live in Ireland. And you might be thinking, hey, what's this Dutch guy doing on an IAB event in Canada? Well, I am very international. I do speak 5 languages. And more importantly, I'm a huge gamer. And I love everything that has to do with games. Might actually make my girlfriend crazy sometimes. But, and also on top of that, you know, Quantcast and I work with many big gaming companies with the likes of like Microsoft, Square Enix, in regards to Final Fantasy IV, Behavior Interactive, and Bethesda as a couple of examples that I can name. Now, today I'd like to walk you to about 3 different topics that, you know, we'd like to show you. First, I'd like to show you the Canada gamer landscape and dive a little bit deeper in the female gamer. Then I'd like to talk to you a little bit about like the Dead by Daylight launch case study that we had in June. And then what is next in the gaming space that we're going to focus on. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what do we know about the Canadian gamers? So Quantcast is known for having a lot of, or a vast majority of the first-party data collected from our publishing partners all across the globe. And it's all live data. So we tend to have a lot of insights into what audiences look like and how they change throughout the years. Or throughout the months even. So what do we know about the Canadian gamers? So in 2020, around 23 million Canadians actually played video games. Now, in fairness, I didn't know what the population was of Canada, so I had to look that up. It's 38 million. So that's actually, you know, more than half of the Canadians actually played games in 2020, which is a lot. And then diving a little bit deeper is, you know, you see 44% of the Canadian gamers are actually women in 2021, which shows the tendency in, you know, gamers becoming, or women becoming more gamers in the future as well. 41% of the Canadian gamers actually have children in the household in 2021, and 24% of Canadian gamers are between the age of 21 and 29. Now, that last stat isn't really that interesting in my opinion. Yeah, sorry, no, previous slide, please. Yeah, we're still on this one. So 24% of Canadian gamers are between the age of 21 and 29. That's actually not such a surprising stat, but what was a surprising stat that we had is 11% of gamers are actually baby boomers. So, you know, we're saying that we're always focusing on the younger generation, or we should be focusing on the younger generation when it comes to this, but I do believe that the older generation is also, you know, a big part of the gaming society. I mean, when I grew up, I remember sitting in my dad's lap playing Return to Castle Wolfenstein and being afraid of the Hitler poster on the wall. So, you know, and that was my dad, and he still plays games to this day. So, and then the final stat that I can share is the total revenue from gaming in 2021 in Canada will be around $1.8 billion. So that's a lot of money. Next slide, please. So yeah, next what I want to show you, or want to talk about a little bit more, is the dive deeper into the what does the female gamer look like. Next slide, please. Thank you. So most companies do tend to focus on the male gamer. However, you know, the female gamer does exist, and she's growing. They're coming to town, and you know they're growing in size. So what does she look like? You know, again, looking at the Quantcast data, they have a strong skew towards, you know, being a millennial. The majority has no kids, which makes sense to a certain extent, and they don't really have a higher education. So let's ask ourselves the question: what happened? Why do women game more? Next slide, please. Thank you. So COVID really accelerated everything when it comes to gaming. Let's look at it ourselves. I mean, we were locked down. We were in lockdown. What are you going to do? Some people picked up board games. I did as well a little bit, I'll be honest with you. What else did we do? People picked up painting, but a lot of people picked up gaming. And even my girlfriend started playing Omno on PC, which is a strategy puzzle game. I highly advise that. It's actually on my to-do list as well. But we also noticed a big shift during the pandemic from mobile games, which is traditionally more known as being a more casual type of game, towards consoles and PCs. Now, but what consoles do women prefer? Next slide, please. Looking at the Quantcast data, we see that women have a tendency to have a higher affinity with PlayStation. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it isn't. But let's look at the current, most of the women that are starting the game, they're emerging consumers. So there's a big opportunity for Xbox and both PlayStation to change the mindset and change their perception about both of those brands. So I would advise getting on there and, you know, trying to change that perception, Xbox or Microsoft, sorry, depending how you look at it. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. So looking deeper into the Quantcast data, we see that the female gamer is trying to out more genres of types of games. You see action, you see RPG, you see MMO type of games, which are traditionally more male-dominated genres. And some of the top branded keywords that we've seen in our data are Final Fantasy, which is of course one of the biggest MMORPGs that that exist. Metroid, more of an arcade game. Monster Hunter, that, you know, does what it says on the tin. Starfield, the new release by Bethesda, and Horizon Forbidden West, which of course features the character that is the main character is actually female. So it's very interesting to see that. Yeah, next slide, please. So now I'd like to show you a little bit more and dive deeper into the case study from Dead by Daylight, that a campaign that we've run in 2021. Next slide, please. So first of all, what is Dead by Daylight? Dead by Daylight is actually a survival horror game released in 2006. So, you know, it's already 5 to 6, almost 6 years old. And in June last year, they launched a new chapter with a new protagonist, which you can see on the screen right now, in combination with Resident Evil. Unfortunately, I can't share all the data from the campaign. However, this story will give you a good overview of what we've done during that campaign. So we actually work with the agency called Attract Mode in Germany to fulfill a good amount of the goals that the advertiser gave us. And we'll show you those goals. Next slide, please. So what were those goals? So we were supposed to recruit and win back new players, increase the awareness of Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil overall, and attribute $15 million in revenue of that period of that campaign. So how do we go about this? Next slide, please. Thank you. So we use the Quantcast platform essentially. So because of our vast amount of first-party live data that we have of everyone across the globe, all the behavioral data that people, all the behaviors that people do on the open internet, we actually profiled and sized 3 different key audiences for this specific campaign. And so something that we can help any client with. So I can imagine that a lot of the clients that you guys work with are looking for their audience on the open internet, and we can help you find those audiences, and it will all update in real time, and you can target those audiences as well. So the 3 different audiences that we sized and profiled were the lapsed players, so the players that have played the game in the past but had to be reactivated, so the frequency would be lower than, for example, the dark multiplayer, which is the second audience that we profiled, because those are the players that haven't been introduced to Dead by Daylight yet, but are playing other types of games, like the Call of Duties or horror type of games. And then finally, an audience that was ready to play. So those are the audience that are ready to purchase and start playing the game because their behavior is showing that they're looking are interested in playing that specific game. Now, this campaign was a mix between branding and performance with a combination of display, rich media, and video. So now I think the most important question is, what were the results? Next slide, please. The outcomes, or, you know, as a gamer, I'd like to use the word dilute. I think the headlines speak for themselves. It was the biggest year for Dead by Daylight since the launch in 2016. We had a peak of more than 100,000 live players during the campaign on Steam, which is an amazing result. And I think one of the key parts that I'm quite proud of is that we found a way to measure and attribute the sales on both consoles, on all consoles, and PC. So these are great results that, you know, I'm extremely proud of, and, you know, getting an 88 conversion share. So we've touched 88% of the conversions that happened during that specific campaign, is something that I'm extremely proud of, and, you know, I'm proud of the team as well. But, you know, I think the question arises is, what's next? Next slide, please. So I think everyone knows right now there's lots happening in the space, and one of the things, Microsoft buying Blizzard this week is something that I can only get excited about because I am a big World of Warcraft fan, and I actually have to drop off in a bit because I actually have to raid. I'm not kidding, and so that's one of the things that's happening in the space. But also the increase of in-game NFTs is very important and it's big in the space. But the thing that we will focus on within Quantcast is we notice that gamers and gamblers actually over-index into deleting their or blocking their cookies. A lot of my friends that I game or raid with, they say like, yeah, Peter, I have an ad blocker on or anything like that. So they are tech savvy, right? I mean, people that tend to game more know more about technology. And so the challenge for that future is how do we measure that audience and how do we target that audience? But also when the cookie deprecates, how do we measure and target that audience? Next slide, please. So Quantcast has actually launched a cookieless solution. Now, what does that do? We use our unique first-party data in combination with ARA, which is our machine learning engine, to find those target and measure those audience without the third-party cookies. It's only first-party cookie and first-party data based out of the Quantcast technology. Now, as you probably know, about 49% of the open web is dominated by the Chrome browser, but the other half, 51%, is dominated by Safari and the rest. So we can't really measure anything right now without a third-party cookie. However, with the Quantcast solution, you can. So it opens up. So what are the benefits? It actually opens up half of the open web, and so it significantly increased your reach. So you just found half of the internet where you can also target that audience that we just defined in a couple of slides ago. It allows you to achieve more of efficient viewability and an effective frequency. It allows you to get lower CPMs. Now, why would you get lower CPMs for that inventory? It's because no other DSP or no other partner can actually understands the value of that inventory. So they're not bidding on it. Well, Quantcast knows the value of that inventory. We're bidding on it and we're getting it on for a cheaper availability. And finally, you get a truer understanding of your audience, because if you just understand your audience on Chrome, that's not the full visibility of that audience. They're spending time on different browsers as well. And that's where we give you the full essence of that. So yeah, to summarize, Quantcast is actually ready for the future. Are you? Yeah, next slide, please. And that was the summary of what I wanted to tell you guys. I hope you all find it interesting. And if you have any questions and if you want to have a chat with me or want to have a chat with my colleagues in Canada, because I am based in a different time zone, that's fine as well. Please feel free to reach out. Are there any questions, any Q&A?
Hey, Peter. So we actually did get a few questions from the audience here today. So maybe the first one that we'll pose is just around how do you attribute the console installs to the campaign itself, and what tracking tools were utilized. I think an extremely relevant and legitimate question that has great merit.
No, that's good. We use one of the attribution partners that we partner with. It's called Gamesight. I don't want to get into a whole long attribution conversation because I think that's gonna take more than the 3 minutes that we have. But I highly advise reaching out to either me or the colleagues from in Canada to have that discussion, because the way they measure, they tag up all the creatives, and it allows them to measure the conversions in both consoles and PC, which allows us to have a better view of what partner has what influence on the end result, essentially. So yeah, just reach out to me or one of my colleagues and we'll have a longer chat about that. No problem.
Awesome, Peter. We were also seeing some questions around your perspective on trends that you believe may be here to stay. Personally interested on that, but certainly some merit in some of that as well. So is there anything that you're seeing here, Peter, that you think will have some true staying power?
Yes, the world's changing so fast. I mean, I do believe that women will continue the game, and I think they will only grow, and I think we'll go more to a 50-50 split in the future as well, especially because everyone is becoming more tech savvy in the future. And yeah, so that's one of the things that I think will stay. I think the world unfortunately will be, and I say this from a gaming perspective, will be more dominated by NFTs and microtransactions, which I'm not a huge fan of. If I look at, for example, an example like Epic Games, the way they monetize Fortnite is, in my opinion, the right way to go. I think the balance should be to, yes, we should be profitable as a gaming company, but it's all around the players as well. If your players aren't happy and they leave, you won't get any monetization whatsoever. So I think the balance of that is continued growth in the future. And I think that hopefully with Fortnite showing the right way to go is what's going to happen with a lot of also mobile games, but any other game on any console out there. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And we may have time for just one more question here, Peter. So
Yeah.
there was some intrigue around the quote unquote boomer audience, specifically around platforms and also titles that that audience cohort is engaging in. Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I can get you that insight. I don't have it at hand right now, but we can work together. If they reach out to me or my colleagues in Canada, we can work together and get that audience and research that audience and get the insights into that audience, what type of platforms they're using, what type of titles they're using or what are interested in. And yeah, we can definitely share that if they reach out to us. No, non issue whatsoever.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. Fantastic insights and, great case study that you've shared with us. I particularly love the fact that it was both brand and performance centric. So kudos to yourself and to the broader Quantcast team. So moving on to our next session, we're actually going to open up to our panel. So today our panel brings together Amy Vernier, the VP of Gaming and Sports at Fandom, Krish Lombardi, who's the president and co-founder of Apex Mobile, Robert Rames, who's an account director and brand partnerships at Enthusiast Gaming. And this session will actually be moderated by Kareem Kanji, a director at Active International, and it will dig into engaging gaming fans and obviously significantly more through the questions. So Kareem, with that, I'll pass it to you and take it away.
Thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate that introduction, and thank you everyone who was in attendance for spending some of your afternoon with us, and thank you to our panelists. I'm really excited to speak with all of you today and to learn a lot more about gaming and esports in Canada. Before we get started, why don't we take a minute or so and have everyone introduce themselves? Amy, why don't we kick it off with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy Vernier. I had a video game and esports strategy at Fandom.
Hi, everybody. Robert Rames. I'm the account director for brand partnerships at Enthusiast Gaming in Canada. And thank you to the IAB and to all the sponsors for hosting this event.
Hi, my name is Chris Lombardi. I'm president and co-founder of Apex Mobile and our newly launched gaming division in the Apex Gaming Network.
Awesome. So Peter just went through a great presentation all around who is the Canadian gamer. Who are these people that we've heard about, especially over the past couple of years? So let's use that as a foundation in terms of, who are these Canadian gamers? With that in mind, understanding, who these people are and some of the things that they're up to, is marketing to gamers any different than marketing to other audiences? And we're going to assume that the answer is probably yes. And if so, how is it different? Why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, sure. So, I usually start this type of conversation around sort of dissecting the segment of gamer. I have been working in the games industry now for about 23 years and have seen just a ton of diversification come into this word gamer, and we throw it around pretty liberally. And if we were to take the word gamer and apply it broadly, we're really talking about almost everybody. And so I think that the very first step that brands should take is segmenting that even further. So who is it specifically that you're trying to reach? Who is this audience? Because if you say 50% of all gamers are women, that's great, but we're talking about a whole bunch of different types of games. We're talking about casual and mobile and core. If you're talking about younger kids, then you're talking about a whole different type of genre. So really understanding, like, within that gamer segment, who specifically are you trying to reach? And that is usually informed by what is your strategy? What are you trying to do? So, so to answer your question, is it different? It's very different, because I hear a lot of, we want to reach gamers. And the first question I usually have is, well, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? Because then we can start to dig in and decide which segment of the gamer population are you really trying to reach? Because I think for, kids now, and I would call kids anybody under 30, to be honest, they reject the word gamer. And I think to them, calling them a gamer is like you or I calling ourselves a movie watcher or a music listener. We need to acknowledge how ubiquitous it is and that they themselves actually don't see themselves as gamers. So what does that do then to our marketing strategy?
That's really interesting. Robert, Chris, and any thoughts?
Yeah, I would echo what Amy said. I think, it's too broad of a category, and to her point, the term gamer is not something that's accepted by a younger generation. This is part of mainstream culture, just like music was a big part of my coming up. Gaming is inherent in this culture. And I mean, you cannot just label 27 million Canadians under one umbrella and think that there's a catch-all, and then isn't a single platform or website where you're going to reach all gamers. And that's one of the reasons Enthusiast is really a house of brands, is because we have sites like the Sims Resource, which is 70+% women, versus, some other sites that's, heavily male skewed, like the Icy Veins. So it's a very broad spectrum that you're going to get from this audience. And it's important to have that nuanced approach, because this audience also has a really strong BS detector for when something is not authentic. Yeah.
And I'm gonna echo Amy and Robert. We start our presentation at AGN with the statement, no two gamers are the same. And again, every gamers, you need to approach very differently, whether they're a esports or streamer or casual gamer or a boomer, whatever that may be. First and foremost, it's understanding who your audience is and how to best reach them in the particular gaming environment. Gamers are everybody. Robert said it, defining 27 million Canadians. That's pretty much the entire population is referring themselves as gamers. So when we look at it, or the approach that we take at Apex or AGN, is understanding all types of different gamers, whether they're on PC, whether they're on console, whether they're on mobile. Are they boomers? Are they kids? And really, looking into their habits and how they're gaming, right? Similarly to how brands take their approach in social media, right? The approach you take in LinkedIn is very different than the approach you take with an Instagram or a TikTok, and it's very similar in the gaming space. How are we advertising to kids and teens in the space? Well, behind me, here's Roblox, right? We've all heard of it before. Very different than the approach we would take if you're going into the esports or even the casual gamers.
Well, there's a lot of things that you've all brought up that I want to dive a little bit deeper in. The first one, Rob, you talked about these people have a high or have a very active BS radar. And you talked a little bit about authenticity there. Can you maybe dive a little bit deeper into that? Like, what does that mean? And what are these people looking for, or what are they keeping their radar on to try to avoid?
Mm-hmm. And I think the creative messaging has to be different based on the genre and game that you're going to have and so on. So being authentic to that community, actually participating, adding value versus just, blocking content with an ad, because to Peter's earlier point in Quancast, this is a very tech savvy audience that's over indexing on ad blockers and things. So actually getting a nuanced approach with the content creators, actively engaging with the communities, I think is going to add a lot of value for brands, because just, the traditional, like, hey, we'll just run a brand self spot isn't going to resonate so much with this audience, because they're going to tune it out and sort of like, okay, that's just not really speaking to me in my language. But to this point, how many brands do we know off the top of our head that have activated on massive platforms like Roblox and definitely like Fortnite and even The Sims? Like, I think far too few. So I think we're still very early, and brands need to be a little bit more courageous and test and learn amongst these different communities and see where they find their sweet spot, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think just to add to what Robert's saying, and actually we have some insight. We actually rep inventory on both Roblox and The Sims, and you're 100% right. I mean, the brands who are few and far between who are doing larger sponsorships and integrations into these actual platforms. We are getting to there in a point where, you know, the market's maturing and brands are looking at, you know, what else we can do in that space. But traditionally right now, we're seeing actually quite a few brands saying, well, let's understand the environments, whether that's Sims or that's, you know, Roblox, and how can we integrate that in a true fashion. And those opportunities do exist. And again, it just goes back to understanding the audience, the tactics, and really being true to the platforms in which you're advertising it. The one thing that we do as an approach, and the same could be said with enthusiasts and with fandom, is, you know, understanding the environment, specific environment you're buying. This isn't a programmatic play. This isn't necessarily even a data play for, you know, for the majority of the products. It's very much environment based. So it's saying, well, the approach I'm going to take with Roblox and Sims could be very different than the streaming space. So again, just being authentic and understanding and knowing where you're running to engage with these fans or players.
I think just to put sort of a punctuation on that, I think you know, we rush to the what are we going to do to talk to this audience, and we skip over a lot of important steps. Everybody gets very focused on an activation, a thing they saw, and so that becomes the popular thing that everybody flocks to. That's when gamers start to pick up and start to recognize it. So you could trace this back years to remember when integrated videos on YouTube were the new thing, and engagement with creators was incredibly high. Well, it was incredibly high because the creator had that direct relationship with their audience. Brands saw that, they rushed to that, and then integrated videos on YouTube became the thing. And now you see that a lot with things like metaverse, or, you know, any or esports, any sort of tent pole thing that happens in gaming. They go to that thing without thinking, well, what are we actually trying to do? Who are we trying to reach? But more importantly, what's our value in this ecosystem? I think that providing value and bringing things to market that wouldn't otherwise be there is one of the smartest things that a brand can do. Almost it goes against what we know about brand marketing, but it's almost like getting out of the way and supporting something that brings an experience or an opportunity to this audience that they wouldn't normally have. And there's a number of ways that we've worked in and around that too, that I think would be interesting to dive into. You know, probably not in this forum, but.
I'm actually surprised it took us 10 minutes to use the word metaverse. I thought that was the first like 30 seconds. Wow.
Somebody else said NFT though, so.
There you go.
Yes. Although there is one more word or term that has not been used, and we'll see if we get to that later on. I'll leave the participants guessing which one that is. Well, listen, we've talked about a bunch of things already, and some people might be asking, okay, hold on, you've talked about esports. You know, someone said gamers and streamers. You know, there's mobile games that we play on our phone. There's games that we play via console. There's, you know, back in the before times, you know, we all used to go and hang out at fan expos and things of that nature. I remember, you know, when the Scotiabank, before it was called the Air Canada Centre, was filled with people watching a gaming tournament. Same thing happening out in the West Coast in Vancouver. And of course, you know, all these forums and websites where people can go and just consume content and have conversations with other like-minded people who might be fans of different titles. There's so many places to go. Planners' heads are exploding. They don't know what to do. And brands want to get involved. And you know, Chris, I think it was Chris, you talked about on some of the titles that, you know, there's not a lot of brands that are, I think you used the word courageous. Whether a planner wants to be courageous or whether they just want to try to test something, let me ask this question. How should brands look to participate? What should they be looking for? Is it as simple as, okay, what's the most efficient CPM, or I know there's no one right answer, but, you know, what advice would the three of you give to a planner that wants to at least try something? Why don't we start with Robert first?
Sure. My first recommendation would be make a long-term commitment. This is a phenomenon that's not going away. It's just been growing. I've been involved. I actually helped launch Twitch in Canada before the Amazon acquisition, and same thing with Roblox. And where the industry has come since that, since like 2014, 2013, is just staggering. So it can't be ignored. You have to do your due diligence. Look into esports, because of that's like the arena. That's the future of all competition, because it's really representative in the most inclusive form of competition compared to traditional sports. So I'm very bullish on the growth of esports and truly being like that global shared experience, like happens with the World Cup and FIFA and the Super Bowl and so on. Like esports has that huge potential, but then there's also this other massive category of the content streamers, which are their own ecosystems. For example, under the Luminosity esports org that we own, we have a creator named Nick A30. He's based in Halifax. He's one of the top Fortnite streamers in the world. And he literally has a small army of fans who just adhere to everything that he has to offer. He's got 96,000 Discord members. On any given day, there's 10,000 people that are actively participating in this one individual's Discord server. So he's got incredible power and incredible influence. And then last but not least, mobile gaming. It's a device that we all have in our pockets. Enthusiast recently acquired Addictive Gaming, one of the top mobile gaming websites. So that is also a huge growth category, and we're probably going to see mobile esports rising. We've been talking about it for a number of years, but all it takes is one or two big hits, like what Fortnite did for gaming. The same thing is happening definitely on the mobile, or potentially in a VR or AR metaverse type of future, depending on where the technology takes us. So there is a lot to play in. Sorry, there is but if you put it into those buckets sort of and test and learn in all of them, I think there's going to be successes, and each one of them has value. Just doing one doesn't check the box of like, hey, I'm reaching gamers. I think there's a lot more.
Amy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it does go back to, and I have a tendency to oversimplify, but I think it does go back to just asking three questions. Who is your audience? What's your intent? And then figure out your message. And that will sort of determine the channel or the platform that you partner with. I loved all Robert's comments around esports. And I will say this, I would challenge marketers to think about esports much more broadly. Think about it in terms of what it really is, right? It's competitive gameplay. Competitive gameplay can take lots of different forms. That doesn't have to be a stadium filled with 5,000 people watching League of Legends, right? It can be a group of 20 people playing something a little bit more casually. Prize money doesn't have to be involved. Competitive gaming creates compelling content. That is what drives engagement and gets people really leaned in. And it also fosters some of the other things that I know brands are usually looking to bring, and that's a sense of inclusivity. That's a sense of belonging. And that is definitely, we see a lot of that happening in and around fandom. I think that one of the areas that I'm excited about with esports is collegiate leagues. If you think about, top streamers, it can get really mind-numbing to think about the numbers that they put up there, and that can feel really almost unapproachable. There are thousands of kids out there in high school and college leagues that have aspirations to maybe make it professional, but in the meantime, they're just having a lot of fun playing in these collegiate leagues. I think that's a really interesting opportunity if teens and young 20s are part of that demographic.
Chris, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Robert and Amy did a good job explaining the esports side of it. And that's a very important part of the gaming. I think I agree with Robert. I think, esports is huge. It will continue to grow in size. Even looking at some of my good friends and their kids who are, growing up, they're not necessarily watching traditional sports. They're watching esports. So again, I only see that area growing. The other thing, I look at is the other side of the business, and looking at gaming as really a mass reach type platform. We all read the stats, and we all know that consumers' media habits are changing. Ad-free models are taking over, whether that's through connected TV, streaming services, print, whatever that may be. Less people going out, metaverse, you name it, consumer habits are changing. So again, when I'm talking to brands or I'm talking to anyone about gaming, it's like, yes, esports is there and it's definitely something you need to look at and be involved in. But there's also that mass reach play in the gaming space that essentially is compensating for the loss in other areas, print, broadcast, whatever that may be. And you can take those same opportunities that you were leveraging in those, I guess you want to call it, environments that used to dominate, and now bring it into the gaming space. So things like out of home, tons of opportunity to mirror that out of home experience in the gaming world. Audio, video, you name it, those experiences can be translated into that gaming space. So again, just if I'm a brand or I'm giving advice to brands, it's like, look at what you've done in the past or traditionally done or viewed as traditional advertising and see if it can work in the gaming space as well too, because it will. And we're proof. We have a number of different products that have worked for a lot of our advertisers. Thanks. So it doesn't necessarily have to be these big, huge tentpole, concerts with 40 million people, or, it could be, get into the space, understand it a little bit, get to know your audience, and then, blow it out with these larger executions. Sure. It doesn't necessarily have to be tentpole in the gaming space.
Sure. Amy, you mentioned something that I want to dive into. You talked about, inclusivity. And I want to explore this a little bit. Peter talked about at Quancast earlier on, talking about more women are becoming more involved in this space. From what I've read, there's a growing BIPOC community getting involved in this. So my question, I don't know if anyone has the answer to this, but maybe Amy can start it off here. Why is this happening? What impact does it have? Is it a good thing? What does this mean for the space?
So I think that I would use the word I was using the word inclusivity to be a little bit more broad around the feeling that people are trying to get when they go to a community or they gather around a game. But I think in the context you're using it is, there are organizations now dedicated to broadening the demographics in and around professional competitive gaming. And those are some orgs that we've worked with previously, dedicated to empowering those that maybe feel like this just hasn't been an industry that's been welcoming. Algorithms on the biggest platforms do favor the biggest creators, and the largest creators tend to look very similar. And so, there is some concerted work being done to how can we foster and encourage more female gamers? How can we foster and encourage gamers that don't look like the top streamers that are there right now? This is super encouraging to me. And I think that it's just talking to some of these groups, and I met with some of them at an esports conference a few months ago. It really does infuse so much optimism and excitement around, what they're working to do. And if that is part of, a brand strategy, if those are things that are meaningful to you, then there are organizations that we've partnered with in the past and would welcome a brand involvement as well. I think that, just to take a step back again, I can't say enough about the work that needs to be done around segmentation, really understanding motivations, because if you understand the motivations about why somebody picks up a controller or why they pick up their phone or why they join a league, then you have sort of the recipe to the rest of your campaign, because you can then support and encourage that motivation and make them feel really good about it. But it's really, that is part of the, maybe the science piece, or maybe targeting is more of the science and maybe this is more of the art. But it really is a critical place to start.
Robert, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's again back to the fact that esports is going to be the audience is most represented on the field or so on compared to traditional sports where you had to be 6'5" and had certain physical characteristics to achieve those sorts of that level of stardom. Anybody could become a major esports star. To Amy's point, it has historically been the same type of people, but that is changing very rapidly. Our Luminosity Esports org has a ton of women creators like ex Choco Bars and some of the biggest ones like Chica and so on in Somerset, like who have really propelled the industry forward. And to that end, we're actually running a Rising Stars event with Elf Cosmetics right now. It's a collegiate edition and it's like an American Idol to become a member of the Luminosity Esports team, and obviously be much more representative of the audience who are in the fandom there. So I think that's the promise of esports, because again, a lot of traditional sports, women are definitely fans, but they're very rarely represented on the court or on the field. And now with esports, you're going to see so much more of gender and people from all sorts of different walks of life. We have another team member who's actually a 2-time Guinness World Record holder. He plays with a quad stick, he's quadriplegic, and he's just playing at the highest level of Call of Duty. So people who have different abilities are able to participate in esports too, which I think is just incredible.
That's great to hear. So today's conference, we've had speakers from, in Halifax and then across the ocean. The Amy's the down south, I believe. This is the IAB here in Canada. How can brands, how can marketers focus on Canadian audiences? Esports gaming is global. There's no boundaries. How can we focus in on reaching our Canadian audiences? Robert, you want to kick us off here?
Sure. So Canada punches so far above our weight class in game development, content creators. The biggest Twitch streamer in the world is XQC, is a Canadian. Some of the biggest, Pokimane also went to the University of Waterloo. So some massive stars there. The game development from EA, developing FIFA and NHL. So long story short is Canada has such a robust gaming industry that we just need to bring some more awareness, and brands should just participate and test and learn and partner with big Canadian content creators. And then if the brand safety issue on running on a live platform or the spillover from having a global audience is an issue, you can find really effective media solutions to make sure things are geoed. You could still be creating the same sort of content and driving to it versus just posting it up on socials, which we know will only reach 5 to 10% of the Canadian audience with that sort of tactic.
Amy, your thoughts on reaching a Canadian audience?
Yeah, I think that if anybody is paying attention to what's happening in Montreal, I think Montreal has been referred to as, the game development capital of North America. So yes, it is definitely in the Canadian DNA for really amazing video game development. I think if, there are also no shortage of tentpole activations happening in and around Canadian markets. So if something more local and a little bit more bespoke is interesting, there are lots of opportunities there. I think that, to your point about, esports and streaming is global. Yes, any sort of content creation on YouTube or Twitch will be global because it is up to that creator to maintain their global audience. So I think it's important to remember that the content creators, their first commitment is to the people that have subscribed to their channel. And for them to geo-target content means that they basically have to exclude certain markets, right? And so if you're not in Canada and they're targeting Canada outside, you're going to get a black screen that says this content is not available in your region. No creator in the world wants to do that, but there are no shortage of ad technologies that can target the right consumer at the right time with the right message. So I have full faith that through the rapidly growing ad tech industry, there's no shortage of ways to reach the exact Canadian gamer. So I think that and then of course tone and messaging would be regionalized, but
Chris, reaching a Canadian audience, can we do that? What are your thoughts?
100%.
How can we do that?
I think, yeah, Robert and Amy both spoke of ways that they can do it within the content creation platform. Canadian influencers, esports teams, research them, understand them, know who they are. On our side, we do have that esports aspect to it, but we also have a number of geo-targetable opportunities with a number of different gaming developers, Canadian, US, whatever it be, but a lot of them are geo-targeted opportunities. So in order to reach that Canadian audience, we can definitely do that for them.
So let's take a little bit of time and look in the future. We have a few minutes left. Public, they're demanding more privacy. There's a distrust of big algorithms. We've got the cookie disappearing. So targeting is going to become an issue. We have NFTs in gaming, microtransactions. There's so much going on. Tell me one or two quick points, each of you, if you could, on the future of esports and gaming. Why don't we kick it off with Amy?
Well, I think everything that you just said it applies to the last 20 years. I think that what's been exciting about the games industry and what's kept me in it for so long is that the games industry has always been at the forefront of trying new things and sort of pushing other industries. So you could say, sure, it's NFTs today, but 10 years ago, it was the beginning of game streaming or digital distribution or free to play or mobile. I mean, take your pick. So I think we're just in another wave of innovation. I think that, just like we saw all those previous business models sort of peak and then level and then they mature, we will see the same thing around things like NFT now, where everybody's rushing to it. They don't really know what they're going to do there, but they're going to do something because they have to. We'll see that peak, we'll see it plateau, and then it will become, the next sort of business model, right? I think with data and privacy, that's where, we will just be looking for much more integrated and collaborative partnerships with brands where we can actually, do some comparisons between first party data, who are your customers, who are ours, and where are the opportunities to, help brands acquire new users or re-engage with lapsed.
Chris?
Yeah, I think, again, understanding the environments, different environments, the audiences they bring, that is going to be the future, without any type of cookies or third-party data. It's really relying on the content creators, the platforms, the games, and understanding who their audience is and how they correlate with your intended target. So that's one. Two, I mean, I definitely think the future is in the metaverse. I know we haven't spoke about it, but I myself, I went to go try to buy some land in one of the Decentralands, and I was just blown away about the cost of acquired land. So I definitely think that's the future. That's where we're going with gaming and real world kind of coming together. These environments, whether they're Decentraland, whether they're Roblox, whether they're Minecraft, they are very much mimic what we're doing in real world, or even where the internet was in the early days, right? When every brand needed a website. Well, every brand's going to need some sort of presence in that metaverse, and then have it evolve. So I think that's definitely where we're going as an industry.
Interesting. Now the dream of home ownership is now in the metaverse instead of big cities.
Getting expensive in there too.
Oh yeah, it's getting expensive there too. Yeah, I think that there was an article that there's a group of investors actually building a mega city in Decentraland. So,
oh boy,
we'll see
Robert,
how that goes.
The future.
Yeah.
So my closing sort of advice to marketers is focus on three things: community, community, community. Like in real estate, it's location, location, location. So really start with an audience-centric view first and build up from there. I think Amy made that, perfectly simplified it. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do here? Because quite frankly, a lot of clients get gaming on a brief and they just look to check that box without having to put that much thought into sort of the creative ideation and how this is going to resonate amongst those communities. I will echo Chris's thoughts as well on the NFT space. I think the play to earn space, I've been playing video games for better part of my life, pretty much one title every single year, and that company just sold for $70 billion and I got zero. And I helped build that. I feel like I should have gotten a dividend or something. So I really believe in the play to earn space and these digital assets. If we look at Korea, having who you are in your digital version is so important, just as important as the clothes we wear, the cars we buy, the watches. Our identity in the metaverse is going to be just as important or even more important than it is IRL. So I'm really excited about this gaming space and how the blockchain is going to affect it, because I think it's going to give a lot of power to the people, like bottom up. Those communities are going to become way more empowered and drive where the brands are taking these gaming projects. So really exciting space to be a part of.
Well, I think blockchain was that third word that people were
all
waiting
right,
for.
nailed it.
It might have been. One final question. This is a fun one. Did you guys complete today's Wordle? And if so, how many attempts? Chris, we'll start with you.
No.
Oh my goodness. Not a Wordle fan. Oh my goodness. You got it. Chris.
I am what they call more of a casual sports gamer, guys. Especially with a 2-year-old and working from home. Yeah.
You've just told us that you don't know what Wordle is.
No, I do know what Wordle is. I just haven't had it. I don't play it.
No problem. Robert?
No, but Luminosity is exploring the esports team in that one. So haven't dived in yet. Haven't had a chance to.
And you guys are disappointing me. Amy, do you play Wordle?
I do, but it's early here in California, so I haven't yet.
Not yet this morning.
I'll follow up with you on that.
All right. Well, thank you to all of you. I don't know if we have any more time, but if we do, we might have time for some Q&A. I'll pass it off to today's host to let us know where we go from here.
Awesome. Amy, Robert, Chris, and Kareem, thank you for the fantastic panel. Robert, it really dawned on me some of your comments around some of the notable personalities in the space. And, even seeing the news this week that a Formula One esports driver has been promoted actually in signing a contract in the real F2 format. So actually making that transition from esports to the real deal really shows how much attention these individuals are starting to capture. And so in terms of questions, we're starting to see some around, the esports and the leagues that are participating in. And there's some of those very well-established leagues. And then there's also some that are emerging from some of those growing esports titles. Where do you think marketers should play? And this is really a question for anyone who'd like to grab it, but where do you think marketers and brands should play? Should they be leaning in towards the masses and the well-established spots, or should they be going for, what are at this point in time, a bit of the long tail that may actually emerge to be a powerhouse in the coming weeks, months, and years?
I would just to jump in really quick, I would start with the IP. I would start with the game. And then go from there. So is the game that's being played, is that aligned with the demographics and sort of the mindset that the marketer is looking to target? If you start with that, then the rest sort of falls into place. And then just also, know that the bigger the league and the bigger the activation, the more your commitment would need to be more long tail. I think somebody here said it earlier, this category has been a media target for a very long time, but it's a media target sort of like quarterly or once a year or one and done. And I think before you evaluate any opportunity, you want to really think about what length of time are you in this for? How long do you want to talk to these people? Because that length of time will probably drive the type of event or activation that you wrap your brand around.
Thanks so much, Amy. We're also seeing some questions from the audience today around brand safety, and I think there's there's merit in some of those concerns that agencies and brands may face, whether it's related to the content of the topic or related to just even that environment of gamers and the potential entry of their brand into that culture. So interested to hear from the panelists what their perspective would be around brand safety and maybe a message around brand safety in terms of creating guardrails or even of how brands or agencies can approach to eliminate some of the perceived risk in the ecosystem.
I mean, our approach is very, very different than probably what the enthusiast guys deal with, and probably more in a moderation point. But on the AGN side of things, we're actually putting brands inside physical games. So we're not around the content of games. We're actually physically in these games. And for us, our whole go-to-market strategy is brand safety, transparency in where we're running. So when we're working with our brands, it is a curated list of games that they're actually running in, and they're all brand safe depending on who the advertisers and the type of risk they want to take. More risque brands want to get into first-person shooters. They understand what the environments they're getting into. Casual games tend to be very brand safe. Environments like Roblox and Minecraft tend to be very closed environments, and only certain brands are allowed in, and it's done on a individual level. So again, brand safety for us is very different because again, it's done on an individual game basis.
And what I would add in terms of brand safety is what we found historically is running algorithmically across a platform. Even with all the amazing technologies that we have, there's certain things that sometimes slip between the cracks with user-generated content or so on. So just knowing which partners you're creating and knowing exactly the inclusion list of where the ads are going to be running, I think is of paramount importance, because there are the video platforms. It's a free for all. The amount of content that's uploaded, all the bots and algorithms in the world are not always going to be able to filter out all the brand safety flags. So I think just having, like, for example, we work with Disney Studios, Disney Pictures, and we have a list of brand safe channels that we know the creators are never going to swear because we told them that we're running Disney ads on their channels. So that's the same thing with something like Twitch. Whenever we're running like a custom activation that's live, we have it, the chat heavily moderated. So whenever there's a brand involved, just to make sure, because those chats can sometimes turn very, very quickly, that audience. So, and whenever there's raids and other things like that in that whole ecosystem. So I think brand safety has to be thought of first and foremost, and the suitability of your ad running against all gaming content versus a specific title, I think is also something that needs to be considered, which genres and which games, which you should be able to get from a vendor of like, hey, where are my ads going to run?
Yeah, I think that Fandom is a community platform, and so our core proposition is providing a really safe and inclusive place for people to come and share their fandoms. We have an entire trust and safety team that moderates and pays close attention to making sure that there isn't any negative content or anything that would be considered not brand safe. So it's something that even outside of our advertising business, it's core to our company values.
Fantastic. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. That was fantastic discussion, great insights. So appreciate your time here today. So for our next session, we're going to take a look at gamification and in creative and how that actually fits into the overall sales funnel. So please help me in welcoming Kevin Johnson, who is the Senior Account Executive and Team Lead for North America at Gameloft. Kevin, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well today. You can see me good. I can see myself. I want to thank the IAB for inviting me to talk again. It's great to be with all the other panelists and everyone presenting and everybody tuning in today. I really appreciate it. You guys had me excited for the whole week after me dealing with the shoveling, and I'm sure you have a lot of other people dealing with the shoveling over on Monday. So As Sean was saying, I'm here to talk about gamification, the sales funnel, and a little bit about Gameloft. Then we can jump into a Q&A if there's some time. And if not, feel free at any point in time to follow up with me for any knowledge behind gamification. So with that said, for anyone that's working at Group M, there is another Kevin Johnson. We are not related. We are both separate people, and as well in terms of Gameloft now. So we have been along for about 20 years. So we definitely look at ourselves in terms of being experts in the gaming space. And over the last 7 years, we decided to kind of get into the ad space. We've kind of looked at developing two portions of the business. And as I get into that next step about that, I want you guys to sit back and relax, have a sip of a drink, and kind of take a quick look at our new premiere video talking about Gameloft for brands.
Hey, Kevin, you might want to share computer sound.
You might be able to turn it up just a little bit on your side, Kevin.
There should be a function that says share your computer sound.
Yeah, my apologies about that. I think there might have been a sound issue with that, but as mentioned earlier, everyone will get a copy of this. So with that said, again, we've been in the business for about 20 years, and we've become experts in creating customized games. We look at them as AAA games for your mobile devices. So pretty much the quality, as you can see in our games that we create, it's quite often similar to console games. So, you know, your PS4s or now recently the 5. But with that said, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the things that we can do to help brands and agencies connect with their audiences and the consumers a little bit more. So at the end of the day, we are able to kind of create custom content, engaging branding content quite seamlessly. So there's two kinds of ways when you're looking at Gameloft for brands business. There's our network of games that we have where you can always advertise within our network through various different kind of ad units. And we have another pillar of business where we term it as out of media. So whether that's creating web browser-based games, developing apps, creating playable units that can run within apps, or working with various different publishers from out of home and digital out of home. And that leads us into the idea of gamification. Quite often, you know, we've been in the past where you go into meetings and presentations where people aren't familiar with gaming strategies, but a lot of the people today on the panel, they've talked about engaging in gaming and the benefits of where we should be, whether it's esports and whatnot. But really what a lot of people don't really know or touch on or have an idea of is gamification. And really gamification is the application and game design of techniques to non-game activities. So when you really think about it, everybody's involved or intertwined with gamification every day of the week. Every day of the week, almost every minute of the day, we're acting on some form of gamification and we don't even know it. One of the best examples I tend to use and I think about, I'm sure everybody logged in on here as I look down is about 70 something odd people, is someone's either a Tim Hortons drinker or a Starbucks drinker. And Starbucks is probably one of the best brands out there who has an app, and that's a great form of gamification. So as I go into my next slide, this is a great way I've had to talk about ads and gamification, and even with Starbucks, because quite often brands are faced with a number of different challenges with gamification. But when you take a look at it, this is how gamification can help conquer those challenges that brands are faced with. So attention and awareness. Gamification can help solve that, right? You're involved with different forms of apps, so you're engaged, you're aware, you're constantly involved with it. You can't put the app down. You're playing your playable ad units, and you're hooked and you're engaged, and you don't want to put it down. Trust and loyalty. Everyone's looking to see how they can retain and keep their audience and keep them engaged. When you're doing different rewards based, that brings them back. I know for Starbucks people, my niece just had a birthday the other day. She went and got her free drink from Starbucks. Those are just different ways of trust and loyalty, of bringing back your customers, that nobody really thinks about, or forms of gamification again when you think about it. Quite often, sometimes there may be campaigns and there's acquisition. What better way to try to lure different customers and consumers than having an app already developed? And then engagement. At the end of the day, engagement, I think, is still king. I know we're in a world where data is a lot of things that people talk about, but at the end of the day, a lot of times people want to have that level of engagement. You want to be in an environment that keeps you, look, as you can see the guy on the screen, he's solely focused in on his phone at the moment. And I know multiple times a day, we're all locked in on our phone, no matter where we are in our house, or where we're with our kids or our children, or we just want our alone time, we are locked in our phone. That's just the world that we live in. And again, at the last point I would say is retention. So you always want to have the people coming back. And these are all great ways of why gamification is a great way to try to take your brand and educate your brand of why they need to be in this form of an environment. This is a great complement to esports, even the word we tossed around today earlier into the panelists of the metaverse, but gamification is a great place to be about. And this is something that should definitely be thought about on all briefs and strategies when dealing with your clients. And in terms of gamification and in terms of ads, you're able to access this on many different platforms. So even again, with us, when you come to us, we have the ability to sell ads in different multiple environments. So whether it's just within our in-game network, as I mentioned before, we're able to place ads in mobile and desktop, whether within the app as it is, digital out of home, and social media. Again, for everyone that has different social media apps, it could be Snap, it could be Instagram, Facebook. Those again, filters are another big thing, and there's ability to have augmented reality filters, and everyone knows how cool those are when you have different filters and you're able to share them with your friends. Here's just kind of a quick slide to kind of highlight how Gameloft for Brands takes a look at the sales funnel. So we have top of the sales funnel, which is awareness. We have middle for engagement and bottom for purchase. And I kind of want to share with you three kind of key examples that we found to be really great studies. One of the benefits for us is we're a global company, so we're able to touch into different markets every day, which kind of allows us to come back to the clients here and kind of show them, hey, there's something that's going on in LATAM or in Europe or in Asia, which when we bring that back, sometimes if the client doesn't think it might be a great fit, we can show them that this is a way for them to kind of leverage an existing brand there that's the same, that they might not have thought of that idea, that you guys can bring back to your client and think of, oh, this is an innovative idea that's going on in another market. Maybe we can repurpose this or come up with something similar to it. So within the three examples I'm about to show you as well, when you do get the deck, you'll be able to kind of scan the QR code to play these existing games. These are playable ad units that last traditionally about 30 to 60 seconds. And again, we can run these in any environments. So the way we look at it is us being kind of, the experts in the gaming environment. You can run these and we can play these in our own network. We can work with other publishers to run them in their environment, or we can create web browsers or even run them on the landing pages of the campaign of the brand itself. And this is a great example that we did with UNICEF in the US. And the ability was, again, from the sales funnel was awareness. So the thing was to bring to life and let the audiences know about these 3 different migrant children who wanted to unlock their true potential. They wanted to be an author, a doctor, and that was the main thing that they wanted to get out of it. So we created 3 different forms of playable ad units, and it lived on the UNICEF site. And the great thing about this is, in terms of an objective standpoint, we really focused on replays and a CTR. And the replays were able to generate about a 30% replay rate and over a 4% CTR. And here's an example that was done out of LATAM, that was submitted for, we even submitted it for the Smarties Award. And this was done during 2021. The objective here was really to educate children and parents about the idea of being clean. And during the pandemic, which we're still suffering from right now, there wasn't a better time to create some playable ad units to really have something fun for the kids and something done for the parents in terms of a quiz and a running game for the children. So where we had this run is this ran, and we created a web browser. So it ran within our network of games as well. And there was a landing page where it hosted these games. And the great thing about this is we were able to find a percentage of engagement between the children and complete engagements as well, and a different one for the parents to kind of see which one, almost like an A and B testing, as well as seeing how it performed on the browser. And then purchase. This one is an example of a toothpaste campaign that ran in Vietnam. And the main objective here was to try to find a way to increase purchases for the toothpaste. So normally for anyone here that is a parent, and I have a 6-year-old, quite often when you have kids, you tell them not to eat this candy, because you're gonna get cavities. So take a break from eating candies. But this was a campaign, it was a way to educate your children. So parents are able to educate themselves, and you could educate your children about not to eat sugary foods. So we tried to make this fun example of a game, and we created a landing page. And the whole point of this was, at the end of it, you had an opportunity to win a trip to Disneyland or Universal Studio. And another great thing about that, it was the landing page you're able to click through to go to, it was called Lazada, which was basically pretty much like a platform for shopping in Vietnam. And the big thing about that, what we ended up seeing was an uplift in sales on the website of over 200%, as well as an increase of over about 40% in the e-com sales. So this just goes to show that the way we're able to view things and the way that things could be done from a gaming perspective is you can look at things from multiple sections of the sales funnel. So awareness definitely works. Engagement definitely works. And as well, purchase works. The main thing is to kind of take a step back in your RFP processes and realize that gaming definitely is a channel that can work, whether it is one of these 3, and similar to what some of our previous presenters talked about today, esports, as well as this other variation. So I think the time is now, and not only a situation where we're only just looking at traditional other methods. People, I think, is all well, and we just need to really understand that gaming and gamification and gamified content is kind of the place that we really should look at now and educate our clients. So now I'll just kind of open it up to some Q&A.
Hey, Kevin, it's Sean here. So we did actually have a few questions come across. Yeah. And so I'll jump quickly into those. So from a brand, from an agency, from a buyer planner perspective, what would your perspective be on where individuals should start thinking about the gamification of content? I can certainly understand from a brand or from an agency's perspective, like, where do I even start with this if you're on the sidelines right now? So what's your perspective in terms of where they should start, or where individuals or brands could start around, considering the gamification of content?
Thanks. Good question. I think it's a situation where, to be honest, you can try to start thinking about it from the get-go. So you try to look at what your previous challenges were from the previous year, or maybe your previous campaigns. And now you start to look at it as from a standpoint of how can we improve? What were our previous KPIs, and what could our potential new KPIs be? So I kind of mentioned again with the sales funnel of how we've looked at things, right? So if it's a situation of how you're only looking at awareness, then again, there's a situation where you can gamify some of the content. And similar if it's a form of engagement. And I think that's the real benefit of gamification, and kind of how gamification is now, is there's not just one portion or one point in time that you can just look at it. The main thing is it can be implemented at any point in time. The main thing is just what do you want to achieve out of it? It's almost in a sense where if you look back at maybe 10, 12 years ago, when, you know, your people, if anyone was getting in the industry or anyone that's been around from that time, you were planning campaigns, you just added Facebook to a campaign and you might have done some Facebook ads. But now we've hit to a point where, you know, it's just socials added from implementation of potential campaign. You don't really necessarily think about it. And then you kind of dwell off, well, what do we want to now do with social? I think gamification is quite similar. It's just something that you should just be thinking about right away. And then based off what might have happened in the past, kind of what you want to do, you then kind of go to your experts and then say, this is what we're looking to do. How can you guys help us achieve that? And you really, because it could be done from a 360 approach. You can work with influencers, how some of the people mentioned earlier on, and you can also work just directly with networks, and then you can work with creators. So gamification is everywhere.
Nice. So we heard some comments earlier, Kevin, around, you know, who we can find in, you know, the quote unquote gaming ecosystem, and, you know, some of the audiences you may not expect to be there. When you look at this through the lens of gamification and the activation against particular audiences, like, who do you see as the core audience that you would likely be, you know, interacting with if you were to look in the context of a gamification activation for a brand?
Yeah, well, I kind of don't want to beat a dead horse, but again, it's kind of everywhere, right? So like some of the examples I would say with that is the gamification and gamified content could be used anywhere. I've seen activations before. A few years ago, you know, Lego, I saw did a great activation by Union Station where you take a piece of a Lego and try to build a bigger piece, right? And you could have easily implemented an augmented reality portion to once the piece was created, you can scan and have a bigger kind of portrait of what that piece that was being built, right? Something similar again, as I showed with UNICEF, no one would really see the connection between gaming and a donation between a not-for-profit organization, right? But they came to us and thought of how can we help bring to life the idea of 3 children's potential dreams, right? And then the same thing can be done from a sports perspective, esports, you know, esports, we've talked about the last panelist of how big that's getting, that can easily be incorporated as well. And then just down to social media with influencers. And, you know, you want to take some of the top influencers as well, and you create augmented reality playable ad units, and they promote it and talk about it as well, where you'd have different games, and as the influencers moving left to right, you might have the mini game, how we call it, a Gameloft, is playing with them. So it really depends again on the demo, and there's not one demo or one audience that it can't be implemented or can be done for.
Cool. So super quick, Kevin, on the last question. Loved your sales funnel slide. I love the abbreviations. Where do you think gamification should live in that funnel?
In that funnel, I would probably say the best part is in the engagement, and I would say the purchase. I think definitely awareness is big as well, but I think where we're probably moving to, engagement and purchase, especially because we still do live in the data world. And engagement, I think, is key. A lot of customers and brands still want to see, well, how's this revert back to our ROI and our return? So e-commerce is still big, and we're moving in a direction, right? I know NFTs and a lot of that was mentioned previous and stuff like that. But the idea of setting up, you know, a gamified app, or setting up a campaign where we can track the sales, that is, I think, is a big part. And I think that's probably the most efficient way, or the more effective way for it to probably live in, where clients and brands would feel a lot satisfied. And even the users, right? So I think those are the best 2 areas, engagement and the purchase.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin. I appreciate you taking the time to share your insights and also the presentation with us here today. So moving on to the next section, we're going to continue to explore gamers through the lens of influencers and streamers. So our next section is actually going to be presented by Sarah Lose, who is the head of sales for the Americas at Twitch. But unfortunately, Sarah was unable to join us today, but she was thoughtful enough to record a session for us. So we're actually going to jump into Sarah's session. If there are any questions, feel free to drop those and we'll get those passed along to Sarah as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much for the intro, and hello everyone. I'm incredibly excited to be here today to talk to you about the magic of Twitch. Or put another way, the many, many reasons that keep consumers, creators, and brands returning to the service and fueling our growth. We have grown our Twitch Ads Canada team exponentially over the last year, investing in areas like local marketing, insights, and operations. Our Canada team has been built to meet your needs and elevate your marketing campaigns, and they are ready. We also launched our brand partnership studio in Canada to create customized campaigns, which is so exciting. I will show you some examples shortly so you can see for yourselves how innovative and immersive the possibilities are. Now, you may have heard of Twitch before. Over the last 10 years, we've revolutionized live streaming, especially with gaming audiences. Gaming is in our DNA. If you look at the Twitch games directory, we have more than 50 genres of games, and this number is only growing. However, these past few years, we've seen tremendous growth of all types of content on the service, and now we're so much more. Let's watch.
Twitch is the next generation of entertainment. The world's leading live streaming service where creativity fills the screen and shared passions create vibrant communities. Where culture happens in real time, as viewers tune in to live, interactive content produced by countless creators found only on Twitch. Twitch brings the joy of co-op to everything, from cooking and makeup streams to professional sports and live music. On Twitch, brands don't just advertise, they become one of us. With credible influencers and loyal communities, in-stream integrations that deepen engagement, high-value sponsorships that strengthen relationships, and truly unique experiences that keep audiences coming back for more. Twitch empowers brands and communities to create together. That's the power of live, only on Twitch.
Twitch is live entertainment brought to you by a global community of creators and superfans. Worldwide, we have over 7 million streamers creating content monthly across genres for a massive audience of more than 30 million superfans daily. From cooking to music, you name it, making it easy for you to reach your audience in whatever context you want to reach them in. And this audience keeps on growing. In fact, we've more than doubled in the last year alone and are composed primarily of the hard-to-reach Gen Zers and millennials. Let's take a look at some of the diverse content on Twitch.
Did you say hi, Twitch chat?
Hi, Twitch chat.
There you go,
That's
guys.
your thing.
People ask, what is a ketogenic diet?
Oh, that's what I'm talking about!
Do a little testing. Better than my honeymoon.
Swamigan has it, throws it up and in at the buzzer!
Second and 4. Oh, he's open, baby!
Setting up here on the bottom hit. What'll it be? Triple cork, 1440 gets it.
Take care of Butterfree.
Twitch really does have something for everyone, and it is now a destination for so many different types of content. And this creates a more holistic service and keeps viewers on Twitch longer. We've seen that many viewers come to Twitch for one reason or another, but they stick around because it's so easy to find something that catches your eye. We see that viewers are spending more and more time on Twitch, and we're seeing growth through more users and deeper engagement. Twitch thrives on an incredible community who come to the service to share passions with like-minded people and create positive experiences. And we see this happening across categories. More viewers discovering more genres and boosting growth throughout the service. Yes, Twitch is a game-changing live streaming service that has content for a wide array of tastes. But Twitch is so much more than just a distribution service for our content. Twitch is where diverse content meets a huge community of super engaged fans in an environment that is immersive and ephemeral. But let's dive deep into the 3 key pillars that encapsulate the true magic of Twitch. Let's begin with our super engaged audience. When you reach the Twitch audience, you're reaching an audience that is super engaged. They come to Twitch for that lean back experience, to consume long-form content at lengths comparable to TV and other full episode players. Beyond our content, our ads are engaging too. Our audience is engaged the entire time they're on the service, including when they're looking at our brand clients' ads. Our viewers are more likely to engage with our ads, especially when compared to our competitors. Twitch is truly like TV, but there's another reason why viewers spend so much time on our service. Twitch is immersive. Twitch is TV that talks back. It's immersive and ephemeral. Our community isn't here to just watch. They come to the service to engage by chatting live with our streamers and participating in the live stream, while connecting with other members in the channel community, whether in emotes, our Twitch-specific visual emoticons, or language that's developed in these micro communities. And finally, our communities. It's in these communities that the magic of Twitch happens. Friendships and bonds form in these communities, rivalries flourish, and the community is just brought to life. And these communities extend into the real world. One example is our owned and operated property, Twitch Rivals. The fandom that develops in our communities is brought to life, and the relationships with our viewers becomes even stronger than ever. Let's take a look.
Gaming has evolved from a single-player pastime to a spectator sport. Today's gamers and esports fans come to Twitch to get in on the action like never before. From the first brainstorm to the arena floor, Twitch helps the biggest global brands navigate the booming gaming and esports industry. Twitch offers 360-degree integrations to embed your brand with our young, engaged, and growing community. Brands can walk confidently into the world of esports and gaming with Twitch-owned and operated platforms. Engaging live events that rally the community, and team and tournament sponsorships featuring the biggest gaming superstars. Reach a rapidly growing and wildly passionate group of fans with Twitch.
All of these things that make Twitch special, the diverse content, the audience, the immersive nature, and the community that brings it all together, makes it clear that Twitch is not like normal TV or other video streaming services. Twitch is TV for the people. The true democratization of TV, where anyone with a vision and a webcam can begin producing and distributing their content to a massive audience. We have over 50,000 partners, and our affiliate list is over 1.2 million, 2 groups of streamers who are eligible to run ads thanks to their sizable followings. Our streamers are an integral part of our experience. They are the lifeblood of Twitch, and we love to see them succeed. It's a really special moment when a creator realizes that they've become a partner or an affiliate. Let's take a look.
Hi, I just got partnered live on stream.
Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations.
What? Coca Gaming, what is this?
Getting partnership for me was probably one of the biggest accomplishments because I worked so hard to get it.
3-year anniversary, yeah. It's just crazy to think where we started to where we are now.
It's a special, special day. It's the stream's birthday. 5 years. Oh yeah, dude.
Raffle is open to enter to win 100 gold in Guild Wars 2.
5, 6, 7.
Chazza, go get the balloon. Go get the balloon.
Hello?
Hi, kids.
3, 2, 1.
Whatever support I get, I just don't understand why I am so lucky. It just doesn't make sense to me, okay?
I love those moments. It's just so rewarding to see the hard work of our streamers pay off. And with millions of streamers creating different types of content every day on Twitch, it's no wonder that some very special, culture-defining moments happen on the service every day. Brands are leveraging our innovative service to connect with their customers in ways that go far beyond the traditional ad. Twitch truly is TV Unbound. It's next generation TV for creators, viewers, and brands. Break through the clutter and tap into the cultural power of Twitch by connecting authentically with your customers where they consume their favorite content. And you'll be in good company. Brands around the world have leveraged Twitch to go past the 30-second spot and to surprise and delight their consumers. Let's take a look at how brands have leveraged our next-gen TV service, starting with Porsche. Porsche had a dilemma. They were releasing a game-changing electric vehicle and they knew they had to do things differently. They wanted a car release that matched the excitement and innovation of this truly groundbreaking car. They partnered with Twitch to create an interactive experience that redefined how brands launch vehicles. Let's take a look.
For years, car launches have all failed to be, well, samey. So when Porsche were taking their first steps into electric racing, they knew they had to do things differently. They had to start from zero. Porsche wanted a new audience, a new platform. In fact, they wanted a whole new way of launching a car. Goodbye, samey. As the masters of live multiplayer entertainment, Twitch placed the reveal entirely in the hands of our global community. And because we're Twitch, we made it into a video game. A real-life video game. Formula E Unlocked saw Twitch chat take control of Formula E drivers on a mission to break into a secret Porsche facility and reveal the car. We even created challenges and puzzles inspired by our community's favourite video games. It took 1.3 million players over 4 hours to complete the game and reveal the car to the world, becoming the most viewed live stream globally on Twitch. Twitch chat loved it, almost as much as they loved their reward, a new global Porsche emote. The press and social media were huge fans too. We think you can safely say that's car launches successfully reinvented. Not bad for 4 hours work.
We'll see you soon. Hasta la vista, players.
The next example I want to share is around the brand Pringles, and it highlights a unique execution that also pushed the boundaries of how brands can use the Twitch service to connect authentically with their audiences. Let's take a look.
Meet Frank, Pringles' new brand ambassador, a zombie cowboy with a newfound taste for the salty snack, hailing from the video game West of Dead. How do you get gamers to engage with Frank in a world full of so many iconic characters? Enter Twitch, the world's leading live streaming service, where gamers aren't just there for the show, they're part of it too. To achieve our goal of taking Frank from 6 foot deep to stratospheric stardom, we needed to do something truly revolutionary. So for the first time ever, we broke a character out of a video game and into the live interactive world of Twitch. A space where the audience could lead the action and get to know Frank like nowhere else. He came for the Pringles, but stayed for his fans. Frank traversed the gaming world, meeting streamers, playing games, and falling in love with Twitch's community. And wherever he went, they loved him too. Clocking up over 19 years of time watched together. But it wasn't just the gaming community that fell for Frank. So did the world's press. With his work done and appetite temporarily satisfied, Frank has plans to return to his home. Naturally, we can't let him go empty-handed. So Frank, we hope you enjoyed your stay. We certainly enjoyed introducing you to the world.
Bye!
I love this activation and the approach that we took in collaboration with Pringles. Pringles wanted to reach a young adult audience in the place where they consume content in an innovative and authentic way. And it really spoke to the nuances of the Twitch service. With our help, Pringles leveraged one of our popular creators and had Frank, a character in the video game West of Dead, actually leave the game during a live stream in search of Pringles. Pringles then ran custom 30-second spots that ran for 2 weeks that showcased Frank in his search for Pringles. And this was the first time in history that a video game character left a game in real life in this type of commercial stunt. As you can see, brands around the world have used Twitch to show up authentically in never been done before ways. Twitch redefined TV, and it's also redefining the 30-second spot. Partner with Twitch to break through the clutter and stand out. We also have a unique capability to determine what's working. The Research Power Group is Twitch's proprietary insights community, made up of viewers and creators who provide feedback that helps us understand their behaviors. When someone joins the panel and participates in surveys, they get to hear about new projects, learn interesting insights, and earn bits, which is Twitch's virtual good used to show support for streamers. Brands can leverage this capability to measure things like creative and message testing, category research, brand deep dives, brand health, and brand lift, so we can determine how we move the needle for partners. Twitch has become a full-fledged entertainment service that caters to all tastes and audience. In just a few words, gaming is not niche. Twitch is so much more than gaming, sports, music, art, and more. And the magic of Twitch is interactive, community-focused, and live. There are so many opportunities for brands to seamlessly integrate into the world of gaming and beyond. If you want to dive deeper into how you can activate on Twitch and authentically connect with the hard-to-reach Gen Zers and millennial cord cutters, please reach out to Chris Walton, our head of sales in Canada. And he'll be happy to set up some time with you and chat with you and answer your questions. We will also drop his email address in the chat for you to grab. Thank you so much for having me today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Awesome. That was great. Big shout outs out to Amy for putting that together. And thank you for Chris for actually being here today. I know you're actually on the chat now. So thanks for taking the time to join us, Chris. So I'm just going to pivot into the next section here to be sensitive around time. So we're going to actually focus on the next section around the gaming's role in the media plan. This one I think will be a very special one. So we're actually going to look at some of the opportunities and insights into the varying gaming personas that exist, some of their differentiators and what the opportunities are to reach some of these unique audiences. So I am going to welcome both Neil Peterson, Strategy Director, and Alex Lee, who's the Associate Strategic Planner, who are both joining us today from MKTG Sports and Entertainment Canada. So Neil, Alex, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks so much, Sean, and thanks IAB. Excited for this. I think we've had a lot of really good conversation to date, and I realize that we're running a bit late, so I'll go right into it. So I'm Neil Peterson. I'm a director of strategy with MKTG, as Sean mentioned. So MKTG, we're a sponsorship marketing agency within the Dentsu network. You would know us. Our claim to fame is kind of the Scotiabank arena. So a lot of times we'll be working with brands on who they can partner with to bring their brand to life and connect with the passions of their fans and of their customers. And speaking of the Dentsu network, so within that, we're part of Dentsu Gaming, which is a cross-functional kind of SWAT team of gaming experts that help to inform thinking for the creative and media agencies within the network and their clients. And specifically, our role within that is really around audience segmentation, thinking about how you can reach different audiences and think about how your audience connects to gaming, as well as bringing that to life through partnerships, through sponsorships in a really authentic way. So I'll jump right into it and share my screen. And so off the bat, what we're thinking about is rethinking the gaming fan. So, we've got a really, enlightened audience on the call today. So I know I don't need to hammer home the point with you guys, but gamers are a diverse audience. There's more than this one type of gamer that's, the guy in his parents' basement playing games. It's really a broad-based audience that has different interests, different touch points with gaming. And so the way that we start thinking about this is we use our proprietary kind of audience data called decoding So if you think about typical, media segmentation, audience segmentation tools, starting to think about the media habits that different audiences have and the customer journeys that they take. When it comes to media, there's a really robust audience segmentation tools out there. The problem that we had at MKTG when it comes to sponsorships is, and especially in Canada, is thinking about, how is it that Canadians connect to sponsors and what types of passions do they have that we can kind of tap into? What type of properties do they care about? And when it comes to gaming, some of those questions, if we isolate for a gaming audience, specifically, let's take Scotiabank, let's take Subway, what is it that their target audience looks like? And then how do they connect to gaming? Do they have an Xbox Series S or a PS5? What types of games do they like? Are they on Discord? Do they watch Twitch? Are they a fan of gaming or are they a fan of esports? And if it's gaming, are they influenced by streamers? What are their favorite streamers? Do they care more about the opinions and the cares of their streaming friends and their streaming followers? Or do they care more about athletes, celebrities? Or is it that they care more about the perspective of esports pros? Would they rather go to an esports tournament than any other event? Do they know the sponsors of their favorite esports teams? If you are going to an event and you end up sponsoring an event as a Canadian brand, how do you activate there? Are these audiences willing to share a photo to participate in a promotion? Are they willing to use a QR code, or would they attend a VIP area at these events? Are they even willing to go to events right now, given COVID? So these are the types of questions that we dig into in decoding, and we really start from, what is your audience as the brand? And then let's define some of these questions based on your audience. So the way that we start to think about this is, and the way that we talk about this with brands initially is, again, there's no one gaming audience. We've got a whole bunch of different audiences, whether that's, the gaming is life. This is my whole life and the passion that I care about the most. What we call affectionately our business up front, LAN party in the back, the young millennial professional that still LAN parties in his off time. We had Peter earlier talking about the halftime gamer, the female gamer. There is that unique kind of sports gamer. And a lot of in these cases, brands will be approached by different properties. So, they will already have a partnership with the NHL, and they will be approached by the team that they're partnered with in the NHL and say, hey, we've got a NHL video game team as well, and you can sponsor that as well. But does that make sense for your brand? Are you just capturing the same audience through both of your partnerships? Beyond that, we've got, again, as part of the Dentsu network, we have a lot of our media teams that are coming to us and saying, we've got a partnership with Twitch already, or we have ads on Twitch already, but we want to go above and beyond that. We have brands that are being approached by esports teams, by the overactive medias of the world, and they don't know too much about branding, but they know this might be a space that they want to get into. And so what we like to do is kind of say, take a step back, let's look at your audience, and then let's dig into it. So as a means of kind of explaining that, we use these personas. A lot of times these are the types of personas that you would see through something like Newzoo and some of these other services. But what we really say is, let's build from your brand's audience and then see how they like to interact with gaming. So there's a couple that I'll show just as an example. Again, this is not the way that we would like to do it. We'd like to start from the brand audience, But I'll start with both kind of what we call affectionately the next generation. So Gen Z, it's an important audience for a lot of different brands right now, as well as what we again affectionately call the still got it, these Gen X boomers that used to play back in the day. They probably lost some of their connection to gaming nowadays, but they use it as a means to connect with their kids. So, Peter mentioned earlier that his boomer dad used to play Wolfenstein with him. This is the type of audience that we're talking about in that regard. So I'll start with the next generation. Just high level insights that we're learning from our decoding research. We can isolate for average personal income or household income. We know the types of brands that are interesting to these personas, and we can even isolate for the brands, or we can figure out the types of games and the types of genres that they're interested in. But even more than that, the ways that they interact with gaming. So for Gen Z, we know that they're motivated to play through a mix of escapism, competition, and socialization. These are gamers that are potential future gaming fanatics or hobbyists, but really more than anything, this is part of their culture. We said it before, people aren't really considering themselves a gamer even when they go to school. Gaming is just part of the pop culture for this group. They're really integrated throughout new media. So, if we isolate for the types of social media and the types of media that they're watching, they're not necessarily watching the TSNs of the world. They may be cable cutters. They may not have any sports packages, but they are following, Twitch. They've got their favorite streamers. They're watching on YouTube. And this group is heavily influenced by the content creators that they follow. So, some of the insights that we can take from that already, if we're isolating for this group, is that, this is a group that is highly susceptible to direct endorsements from their favorite content creators. Things like branded clothing and packaging is really effective for this group. Again, it's part of their culture, and so they get really into it. And collaborating with publishers to create kind of recurring brand touch points within game titles can be really effective with this group. One case study of someone that we found has done this really well is Kellogg's, right? They have integrated, in this case, their partnership with Overwatch across all of their products, and they've got touch points everywhere. So whether you're going into an Overwatch Championship live event, they've got, trials there. They've got sampling there. They've got on their box, options for getting a free golden loot box if you submit. They have the ability for you to connect their kind of Kellogg's family services to Epic Games and to their connection with Overwatch. And if I keep going, so if I'll move on to boomers, we've got this still got it persona here. And what we're talking about is we can isolate for the age here. So again, you can see we're isolating for an older audience, Gen X's, boomers. We've got a different household income, different types of brands that are interested in that they're interested in. And really, this is a group that grew up in the infancy of gaming. They're detached from any kind of esports ecosystem. So when we're talking about how do we connect with the boomer audience, it's not going to be through esports. It's going to be through the content and the games that their kids are playing. And their gaming habits are really influenced by what their kids play. So the example that we have here, and I'll jump ahead just for the time being, to a case study of someone who's done it really well, which is Cadbury.
Ready, Nana? I'm going to teach you how to play. So,
Dad, you actually have one before. No, never. Right, press X. X.
you're pausing the game. Did I? Oh, it's the wrong thing.
You're going the wrong way. I'm saying jump.
Go up, yes. Up, no. That's it. Go, Nana. All right.
Nice! How'd you do that? Jeffrey Heroes League. Stream on Twitch November 14th.
So you can see, Cadbury's really effectively partnered with, in this case, Street Fighter, in order to create their own piece of content that is authentically connected to gaming and is going to speak to families more broadly, right? So it's that ability to kind of speak cross-generationally that's been really effective for them. And as we start to think about this, once we've isolated for the audience, we're kind of thinking about this a little bit differently. So we start thinking about the gaming landscape, and we use this kind of simplified version of the landscape to think about the opportunities for brands when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to, integrating in. So, you can connect with publishers and games, and we've seen a lot of great examples of that to date. And the benefits for sponsors here are really in-game advertising, the ability to build presence directly into the game. It's going to be able to connect with a lot of people that may not be into esports, but they're really into gaming, whether or not they're watching streams or not. Obviously, this is something that's more effective at a global level and much harder to geo-target for a Canadian audience. Beyond that, connecting with a specific game can be really difficult, right? There are so many games out there. And so by default, you are really isolating for a specific piece of the pie if you're only partnering with one game. Moving on from that, you've got kind of leagues where, again, fairly traditional types of sponsor benefits here, comparable to sports teams. So you've got things like IP rights, branded content that can be built into live streams. You can have in-venue signage at league events, apparel and gaming equipment. So, if we recognize with a gaming audience that is built up based on your brand, that, this is something, these are the types of events that your audience are going to, then it starts to give us a sense that maybe we should be partnering with leagues, especially leagues that start to have events in Canada. We know the League of Legends World Championships is the semifinals are in Toronto this year. There's a lot of opportunities here for very specifically targeted, engagements. Moving on from there, we've got things like tournaments, and these are for those publishers that don't have leagues, that are, again, this allows us to get a little bit broader where, if you're partnering with an ESL, you're not isolating yourself to a specific game. It gives you a bit of a broader sense. So, depending on the audience we're trying to reach, this can be a little bit more effective. And again, I'll keep us moving, but there's obviously a lot of different esports leagues. It's a very fragmented thing, but each of them has their own priority markets as well. So when we're thinking about North America, when we're thinking about Canada, it's really important for you to understand the landscape and understand the partners that are relevant at that stage. Moving on, so teams, again, this can be very traditional types of sponsorship benefits where you're connecting with home venues. You can have jersey patches, sponsorships. You can have access to some of these team athletes if the audience we recognize is really influenced by esports pros. And beyond that, some of these teams, some of them are very specifically esports, but some of them become much more of a lifestyle play, in which case it has a much broader appeal, right? You can appeal to the Gen Z that may not be that interested in esports, but they're following 100 Thieves because of the lifestyle statements that they make. And then beyond that, there's obviously streaming services. We've talked a lot about Twitch and YouTube to date, and streamers as well. And each of these comes with their own benefits when we're connecting with them. And beyond that, streamers themselves, they're playing a lot of different games. We just heard a lot from Twitch, but the example of Myth here, who's got a massive following, we can see, you're not isolating yourself to a specific game. He may be playing Rainbow Six Siege one day and then Uno the next, and just chatting with fans another time. So, it gives you a broader ability to reach fans that are fans of more genres than just one. And then just to take a step back here. So again, what we'll think about, especially for Canadian brands, is first of all, are they a Canadian office of a multi-market brand, or are they a homegrown local brand that has, can't waste impressions on international groups? They need that ability to geogate. And there's different opportunities in either case. If you're a Canadian office of a multi-market brand and you can get on board and you're not siloed, so you can get on board to some of the global budgets and you're okay with some of the mass reach that you can get globally, yes, you can work with publishers. You can do some of the cool things that we've seen in some of the case studies today of connecting through games. But in a lot of cases with a Canadian homegrown brand, you don't have that level of budgets to begin with, and also, by integrating into a game, there's a lot of audience creep, and you're wasting a lot of impressions. So for Canadians, having connections with some of the local ownership groups like the Overactive Medias of the world, events organizers, we had EGLX on the line today. Some of the Canadian teams or Canadian professionals and Canadian streamers. That can be much more effective for us. And then obviously across the board, the ability to geo-target for streaming services and for media is great. So I think what I would say in kind of conclusion is what we like to do at MKTG is start with the audience that is built around your brand and figure out how it is that they like to interact with gaming. So it's a bit backwards. We're not thinking about what gaming audience are we trying to target. We're instead saying, how does your brand like to interact with gaming? And then what are the abilities and touch points that we can reach those groups? So again, I know I've gone a little bit over. I'll stop sharing now, and I'll turn back to Sean in case there was any questions in the Q&A.
Thanks so much, Neil. It doesn't look like we had any questions come through, but did want to express our appreciation. Some really great content and very in-depth in terms of what you've dove into there. So thank you for taking the time to put that together. And Neil, wishing you all the best. I hear you're a little under the weather today. I guess for all the participants in today's session, that concludes the 2022 Marketing to Canadian Gamers discussion. And I'll say on behalf of the IAB, want to just take a moment and thank all of our presenters for coming in and sharing their perspectives and their knowledge here today, along with all of the sponsors that were generous enough to participate in today's, in today's session with the IAB. As you can see, Amazon Ads, the Index Exchange, Samsung Ads, along with the Globe Media Group, and then our topic sponsors, Gameloft, and then also Quantcast, whose support and cooperation with the IAB really bring these sessions to life. So thank you once again for your support for the industry. I also think it's a great opportunity to mention our next thought leaders in session, which is on February 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we're actually going to be pulling together a lot of the top minds within the industry to talk about the playbook for addressable audiences, which is certainly a topic that we have on a daily basis. So a very important session coming up, as I say, on the 24th, among a variety of other great topics that the IAB will be hosting in the first quarter of the year. So with that, we can kind of conclude today's session. Once again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. It's been a really great and really thought-provoking session. So once again, thank you to all the those who presented, all those who shared some fantastic questions with us, and wishing you all the best and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.